I think obviously weight loss is a pretty large element to our society, but I think we don't often talk enough about how people essentially abuse exercise as a version of weight loss without knowing the actual evidence related to it. So why don't we jump into it from that point of view? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think in terms of turning our body into a math equation, what we mean by that is the old adage, calories in, calories out. And people get very fixated on the amount of calories that they're bringing in when they're wanting to lose weight. And every piece of diet culture advice out there tells you you need to massively cut your calories and massively increase your caloric expenditure. And what we see is a lot of difficulties and problems as a result, because a lot of people don't realize that massively cutting our calories sends our body into a danger mode, a starvation mode. And when it does that, it goes through a lot of processes. And some of them are, it tells us, okay, I'm losing this much fat, I'm losing this much muscle, I'm losing this much water. And the body, when it's in a survival mode, is really keen on getting all of that back once the restriction ends. So it's keeping track of that. In addition, what it's doing is it's suppressing your thermogenesis. A lot of people think, oh, my metabolism goes down. No, it's really your thermogenesis goes down when you're in a restriction mode. Then you add really punishing forms of exercise on top of that, and you're creating even more stress on the body and telling the body you're in even worse danger because it can't even hold on to those calories very well because it's being burned off through the very rigorous punishing forms of exercise. And it's totally keeping the score the entire time. So that when you have any period of rest or you have your quote, I hate the term, cheat days, or you go off of the diet in any way, shape, and form, the body then is very confused. And it's saying, oh my gosh, okay, we're back to what we were doing before. It goes into a safer mode. But the moment you go back into the restriction, it is in conservation mode. And so, what I counsel people, because I'm a psychologist, I'm a dietitian, I'm also a certified Pilates instructor, is that we need to learn how to be in harmony with our body and listen to our bodies more so than we're listening to gym culture, especially because gym culture is really about punishment. It is about working. It's about pain. It is weakness leaving the body. You hear that all the time in gym culture, but the body is actually telling you, I'm in pain. I don't like this. I don't want this. And when we're out of sync and out of harmony with our body, it doesn't do what we want it to do, but it does what we want it to do when we listen to it. And that might be, hey, you need to chill. You might need yoga. You might need to stretch today. Or I'm feeling energetic. I want to do something. I need to do a little bit of running or cardio. If we're listening to our body rather than treating it like a math equation, then our body is going to respond so much better. And that's actually when true long standing weight loss can happen.
So let's dive into, there's a couple key points in there I thought were pretty interesting. And one especially, which is so much about the exercise professional that suffers from this gym culture phenomenon. What is it about the exercise professional and specifically the exercise professional who is on camera, on social media that is exacerbating this punishing culture, which also is just like a culture of this is how it is. And it's a very, it promotes extremism in my point of view, especially
Yes.
online.
Yes. I don't see gym culture that different from diet culture. And if you look at diet culture and you look at its $2 industry, the first, basically the unhealthy pursuit of the perfect thin ideal, an unachievable ideal or very difficult to achieve ideal. That's one thing that drives people, especially in gym culture. And when you're a gym professional, you have this pressure on you that you have to look perfect. And I know that pressure As a Pilates instructor, you're supposed to be this live, very athletic, inspired body. And there's a lot of pressure to be that. And when you're not that, you worry that you're not going to get clients. Why would I go with? And that's the other bias that drives diet and gym culture is weightism or fat shaming and fat phobia. So if a gym professional has any fat on their body, they are so afraid of being shamed, told that they're not good enough. And that fuels their unhealthy behaviors. And then they fuel everyone else's unhealthy behaviors. And what I'm hoping to do with all the work I'm doing with the book that I wrote, The Program Diet Culture, I want to create a revolution against all of this. And I know that's really hard. But when people are actually tuning into their bodies, they're also in the realistic mindset that all bodies are different, that there's no one perfect body. And we can open up our view of what is healthy and what is, quote, beautiful. We can create so much more of an inclusive environment because by pursuing the perfect, ideal gym body, you're actually excluding so many people because they're thinking, I can never look like that. I don't even think I should try. And then you also have a lot of people who are like, I really want to look like that and I'm going to try. And what that ends up fueling are eating disorders, disordered eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hung on to gym culture is the same as diet culture. Man, that was powerful. And I don't think I thought about it that way, but they're two forms of very extreme behavior and culture.
Yeah.
And what I find particularly disturbing on this side is that it encourages almost this monoculture, this very limited set of beliefs for that. I would love for you to expand a little more on the analogy between those two a bit more.
Yeah. I think that they're connected and it's not this in the same culture. Diet culture really, I think, is the beginning of gym culture. And if you look back at that, you can see that before the Industrial Revolution, being overweight was actually the ideal. It separated the classes. If you were upper class, you had money, of course, and you had access to food and you had access to healthcare. And so being corpulent and having extra fat on your body showed that you had wealth. And if you were very thin, and of course, if you were darker skin, then that means you were outside and you were in the fields and you didn't have money. And it really wasn't until the industrialization of food that we started to see people actually becoming more similar. We started to see the poorer people having more access to food, having to work less in the fields, maybe working in factories and things like that, but having this access. And that's when rich people were like, uh-oh, we're all starting to look the same. And if these people are gaining weight, maybe we need to lose weight. And that's when you started to see the corsets and the promotion of this very thin ideal. So exercise didn't come into play until much, much later. If you're looking maybe like early 1900s, when you started to see like calisthenics, I think really military culture was the beginning culture because you started to see that men were doing all this masculine stuff and working out and doing push-ups and getting themselves ready for war. And that bled out into society along with diet culture. So diet culture is as more female driven in the beginning with having this hourglass figure and being perfectly svelte and well dressed, especially if you get into the 20s and 30s and 40s. Then you get into the 50s, and I think that's when things started to become more synergistic. Just you started to see people like Jack LaLanne coming out on the scene, people promoting the kind of physical manipulation of the body in order to become the ideal. So I think it was born out of military and diet culture and then took off and became its own thing. But it has aspects of diet culture all over that. You can't go to a gym and get a personal trainer without a trainer trying to promote or push a certain kind of diet onto you and telling you if you want results, you got to eat this much and work out this much. And that's when they are completely synergized. And it's usually an unhealthy form of dieting. Most gym trainers that I know promote something like a 1,200 calorie diet, which is not enough to fuel a toddler. It is very low. And that's when the body is going into all that starvation mode, like I talked about before. So what we need to do is we need to educate all people in the diet culture industry. I got to say, they probably aren't that interested in learning all of this because
That's
diet
correct.
culture is their whole business is fueled on a misconception. So they're not going to want to change anything. But we can also, I would love to create a revolution and switch and change industry so that it's more supportive, more holistic, more healthy for us. But we can also educate people that are the fitness professionals and have them make the most informed decision for themselves and the most informed decisions for their clients. And for those who are interested in doing that, I think the result will be that you have an inclusive clientele where you invite anyone to come and work with you. You can be a shining example of not being, quote, perfect and being okay with that and showing that health goes beyond the external. It's all about what's internal first. And you can really help people move toward a healthier form of exercise that works for them and is sustainable for them.
It was interesting. As soon as you said that about the education, I immediately had this thought in my mind, and then you finished it when you backtracked. And I said, oh, no, those folks aren't interested. And here's the thing, it's this weird dichotomy that I notice, I'm sure you notice, which is you are doing something, especially online, and that thing that may be very insidious to people is making someone a lot of money. So then it
Yeah.
becomes this ethical dilemma. Should I choose what is right, or should I choose what gets me more followers, gets me more subscribers, and compromises who I actually am, but I'm making money off of it?
Mhm.
I think this is a real paradigm that we haven't discussed so much in this, because a lot of gym culture is a lot of ethically slippery slope things,
Yes.
very slippery. But if you talk to the people, they may be like, well, I'm making money off of this. So then there's this dilemma. What's for the greater good? Philosophically, is this a humanistic approach? Probably not. It's always a hedonistic approach. It's a very monetary based approach. Unfortunately, we're fighting a lot of that in gym culture and what's happening. So I think that's one of the sides I think we're not talking about enough. Is this choice between money and actually helping people? Because if you're
Yes.
telling people blatant lies online and promoting a gym culture, which in my opinion is very monoculture based and based in a lot of non-realistic things, and you're hurting people, but you're making money, where do you live on that scale? Where do
Exactly. Exactly. If you just look at it, if I look at it from a personal point of view, I'm a psychologist, I'm a dietitian, and I am a fitness expert. And I could choose to go that route. I could choose that. I could be like, I'm going to be the next weight loss guru. And if you do my 1,200 calorie fasting diet and you follow my Pilates program, you will see results fast. I could do that. I actually could do that and make a ton of money if I wanted to do that. But I think it's so important to really examine the why of what you're doing as a fitness professional. Why are you choosing to do this? Is it to help people or is it to increase your bank? And it could be both.
it could be both.
It could be both. And what is going to make you feel better? Is it going to make you feel better to see somebody have lasting results for the rest of their lives and a healthy pursuit of their health? Is it going to be that? Or is it going to be where you punish people, put them in a very restricted diet, they stay with you for 6 weeks and they're gone? You never see them again. And you never know what's going to happen to them, because that's what's really happening in the majority of gym culture. You have these clients, they stay with you for a little bit of time, and then they drop, usually maybe like a few months later. It's, I think, pretty rare unless you have a holistic mindset to have clients for a long time. That's something that you have.
Yes.
And I think it's really important to illuminate to people how you're doing this, because what you're doing is certainly less stressful for yourself and more sustainable because people are staying with you for a long time. So tell people what you do.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for highlighting that. I appreciate it. I think one of the biggest things I'm very anti for clients, especially this get big culture, which part of gym culture is a subset, which is get big, get huge, lift heavy weights, get super ripped. Being a scientist like myself, that this actually doesn't make a lot of sense. Functional. It's calorically expensive, both monetarily and energetically. And over time, it's actually probably not going to serve you very well. And in order to be pretty large and pretty ripped will require some level of effort that is really not realistic or very healthy for the person. So my approach has always been, let's make you a better human being, and that you or use exercise is just part of the equation for that. Let's improve your social, emotional health,
Mhm.
and let's slowly progress you through the exercise progression. But let's create something that is a lasting relationship with each other. And let's make it, if the exercise part, we're going to make that about just being functional. What do you want to do later in life? And what are the things we're going to do? So my focus a lot is getting people on the ground and getting them back up. When they're young, when they're older, let's just make sure you fill the ground. You know what that feels like, and we don't fear the ground. Nothing I said is let's get huge or let's get you at the peak of your VO2 max. I just want you to be able to enjoy your life. So my approach is just very different. It's a very
Mhm.
humanistic approach. What's the best thing for most people is just to be able to be active, be able to do regular things. Because I learned,
Yes.
Supatra, I learned this like in year 2 or 3 of this 24-year career. The majority of people are not willing and also do not want to get to the peak of their fitness level. They are not willing to do it. They actually don't want it. They may think they want it when they see someone else who looks that way, but the reality is people are busy. They got a lot of shit to do. Life is crazy. And you know what? I'm a proponent of how do we get this in within your crazy busy life and all the responsibilities you have? Because realistically, you can't be at the gym for 3, 4 hours a day, taking gigantic water bottles with you, just doing weight training, ignoring other energy. That's something for really young people to do. We have literally all the time in the world and no other responsibility. That's not most mature people in life. All
No.
my clients are busy,
No.
parents, executives, CEOs. They don't have time for that. Can't be in the gym for 4 hours, 2 hours. So that's not realistic. So that combined with the holistic approach has always been really great for me to have clients for almost 2 decades regularly. We're not trying to get big or we're actually trying to exit gym culture. None of my clients even exercise in a gym at this point anymore. We're almost killing that culture with what we're doing. So that's what's happening
Mm.
on my end.
Oh, I think it's so important. And I do see that contributing to somebody's long term health goals. When you see people who do make the time 3 to 4 hours in the gym, what you usually see is some very unhealthy behaviors there, but also eating behavior. And I've seen so many clients come to me from gym culture and also from disordered eating habits and behaviors that turn into full blown eating disorders. And when we see this, especially if you're eating so few calories, what you will most likely see as a result is a lot of injury, physical injury, but also emotional and mental health injury. It is not sustainable, I think, for the majority of people. Even celebrities talk about this a lot. And it's really disturbing to me because what's promoted with celebrities is how they got fit for this role. And you see that online, and that becomes the inspiration for people to try to follow that. But it's really important to see the follow up interview with them because most of them say, that was crazy. I was suffering. That was the worst time of my life. I've never been so unhappy. Look at Paul Rudd. He's actually really outspoken about that. How messed up that was for him and how he never even felt like he got to any kind of ideal. And he was comparing himself to his other superhero mates.
Yeah.
And he was saying that was pure hell. And we have to ask ourselves, is all of that worth it? Is it worth it in the end? How much suffering you've gone through just to achieve something that is so fleeting and so difficult to maintain? And I think we really need to open our eyes to what health actually looks like. Because health can look like a million different things. Health can look like you have a little bit of fat on your body, or you might have a little bit more fat on your body and still be completely healthy. Health can also be, like you said, can you sit down on the floor and can you get up off of the floor unassisted? And how is that going to help you go into old age and be able to function and be healthy as long as possible? When we look at the blue zones, actually, they're the 5 areas in the world with the highest proportions of centenarians. You don't see them out there going to the gym. None of them go to the gym, not a single one of them. What they're doing is functional movement. They're gardening, they're walking everywhere because they don't need a car where they are. They're farming, they're doing all of these things that are functional. And yet, look at them living well into their hundreds, eating food that is coming straight from their gardens, and living a beautiful social life. And I think if we were to reprioritize, we would spend much less time in the gym. We would do it in a functional and healthy way. And then we would get outside with people and actually live rather than being online and stuck in social media worrying about how we look.
Yeah. And I think adding to that, gym culture actually, I think promotes isolation, actually.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
also actually, even though you may be filming something or putting it online, it's pretty much a very solo endeavor. And it's a
Mhm.
very completely aesthetic endeavor and
Yeah.
a very individualistic look at me. This is what I did. Like, I can't stand the stuff. It's like, this is what I eat in a day. This
Oh,
is my
me neither.
workouts. Just all
Yes.
very unfortunate because it's parading yourself in a way that is not realistic for most people. They're so out of touch with people, like for me, I always want to
Yes.
be on the ground level with people and myself. I want to be grounded. And just people don't live like that. No one's getting up and doing this stuff. You know what real life looks like? Getting up,
Mhm.
having to get your kid out of bed because they're tired and trying to get them together to go to school or getting your ass out of bed, trying to do stuff, going to a job. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it, whatever it is, like dealing with maybe other relationships, sick parents, whatever it is. The 22, 23-year-old is, I get up, I have nothing to do, I film these videos. That's actually not realistic. But I understand why people get into it. I understand why humans fall into this because humans always strive for things this ideal that they think they should be like, instead of for striving for where you're actually at in life. And a lot of people are
Yes.
very dissatisfied. So
Yes.
they see something that looks like this glow, this thing, this ideal, and then they don't realize it's actually not real. And actually talk to that person 15 years later. They're not doing any of that stuff they're putting on there. for that.
No.
I just find gym culture to be very isolating. It's actually, I used to enjoy going to the gym when I was in my 20s, back in the 90s, because people actually talk to each other. You would get in workout groups with people. It'd be fun. It's actually fun. Everybody's just very to themselves now, or
Yes.
they're just filming themselves. It's just a
Yes.
very isolating culture. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that, bleeds a lot into the social media culture. And that is so fueled by diet culture. And it is such a toxic environment,
Yeah.
especially if you're looking at your feed and all you're seeing is this, it's going to promote that more and more for you and make you more and more isolated. And that's a big part of my book. I think it is so important to really look at all of the influences coming at you. And big part of that is social media and what we see from gym and diet culture. And usually, I think if you were to ask yourself when you're looking at this content, how you actually feel, most people are going to say, I feel like crap. I'll never look like that. I am not good enough. That I'm worthless. There's no way I can never achieve that. And if they're consuming that 24/7, their mental health is so suffering. It is so harmed. And I think it's so important to actually take control of your social media feed. It does not have to be that. And the algorithm can actually support that. So I always have my clients go in and hide and block and unfollow anything that makes them feel that way. Or they can go look at Celeste Barber, who's hilarious, and she will do these side by side videos. I don't know if you know her. Oh my gosh, she's so funny. She'll show the skinniest model doing something that they posted online. And she's a very, very, what she would describe as an average looking woman trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that's funny, but that actually illuminates how most people feel when they look at this stuff. And I think we don't have to do this. We
No.
can hide, we can unblock, we can block, we can unfollow anyone that makes us feel terrible about ourselves and go and spend time. If you're going to be online, if you're going to be on social media, it should enrich you. I love anything about comedians. I love anyone who inspires me and makes me want to be a better person. And so when you look at my social media feed, there's none of that. If I see any of that, I'm like, ooh, no.
Yeah.
And the ads, I'm like, no, I don't want it. I'm not going to buy it. I don't need it. And that helps to shape social media and helps to shape industry. I think we have so much more power and control than we think. All we have to do is wake up. We have to wake up and decide for ourselves, what do we want? And if that is a holistic health perspective, you can be at the forefront of that. You can be in control of that and you can reject that. And can you imagine if everyone did? If everyone did, diet culture would fizzle
Yeah.
and a whole new industry would grow. And it would grow that actually, it would be something that actually supports us and makes us healthier and makes us want to be with others and makes us want to be the best that we can be from the inside out. That is my hope and prayer.
I hope so too. I think it's good to illuminate about gym culture and diet culture being very similar and how they essentially merge together.
Mhm.
And I just think it always comes down to two. There's always a monetary aspect to these things. And if someone's
Yep.
making money off of it, they're generally going to choose money over any integrity. People choose money over integrity every day, all the time. And I think gym culture exacerbates that. It promotes choose external gains over internal wellness for people all the
Mhm.
time. Yeah, you have to figure out how you want to live on that, whether you don't have social media or you do have it, whatever it is, you have to have, there's mechanisms to not be pulled in for
Yeah.
it. But I think as fitness professionals, there's always this kind of war between kind of your academic, very well researched professional versus someone who just goes viral and stuff and all those different things related to that. But I think you can control yourself, what you do. That's what you can control.
Yes.
and how you, and I agree with you. Like I've told many people this, if I really wanted to blow up my YouTube, which I have for my podcast, I'll just take my shirt off, start working out, running around, saying a bunch of outrageous stuff. But there's a playbook for it because if you, because we've sexualized fitness as well. We've made it a very sexual online endeavor and people
Yes.
naturally pull towards that. And men and women, all people have done it from the guys. Like the other day, I was actually, I'm at the gym like once a week. And other times I'm outside working out and stuff. And I was like, what the hell is this? There was like a video, there was like videos in the gym of these guys working out. Their shirts are off. So you're super ripped. And I'm just like, this is crazy. And then I was in Vegas one time at Lifetime Fitness, and there's videos of women wearing $800,000 pieces of jewelry and they're selling the jewelry. I said, what kind of stuff is this? This is the stuff we have to get rid of, man. But the money
Yes.
always trumps the integrity for so many of these fitness franchises, cultures, individuals. And that is, I think, is going to be difficult because that lure is so strong for so many people. You know,
I can say this for myself personally. I have never been more full with clients doing what I love.
yeah,
And I do think that if you choose your own health, you choose your own well being, and your intention is to help others do the same, you will find your clientele. Yeah, you
yeah.
might not go viral, but think
That's okay
about
though.
this.
That's
It's
okay.
okay. It- It's totally okay. It'd be even great though if you did go viral doing what you love, helping people. But you got to think about your intentions and you got to think about what fuels you. And I will say this, nothing has ever made me feel better in life than to help people. That started as a Pilates instructor. When I started to see people heal from injuries, I was like, wow, oh my God, this is the coolest thing on the planet to actually help people. There's no better feeling. And to do it in a way that supports them for life, I can't even tell you. That's like worth more money than anything else. There's no dollar amount that can equal that feeling when you see somebody heal. So I think we have to really prioritize our own internal compass. Because if it's only fueled by money and making money and showing off your body and trying to make people feel less than or jealous or aspirational toward you, what is that going to do for you ultimately? Yeah, you may go viral, but do you actually feel good?
Yeah.
Are you actually helping someone? Because I don't think that pursuit, and you look at that in the entertainment, I used to be in the entertainment industry. And I think so much of that is fueled by this kind of self promotion. It's ultimately pretty empty unless you're doing something good with your time outside of the entertainment industry. Gym culture and diet culture is the same unless you shift it and you focus like you're focusing, I'm focusing on helping people become healthier for life. And that's a very different pursuit than trying to go viral and make as much money as possible. And I'm really hoping, I think that there's something really lovely about the new generation coming to adulthood, Gen Z. They are very socially and civically minded. And I think that is really hopeful for us because they may be the generation that helps us get out of this toxic, dollar driven society and help to shape industry. So I hope anyone who's listening is inspired because if you guys really put your dollars to its best use, your voting to its best use, there's so much we can change. We can quit this toxic, high protein, animal protein centered mentality that is completely destroying our planet. Right. And we
I
can
am so
take
with
those,
you.
right? We can take those dollars and put them towards organic farming and the consumption of plants that make us healthier forever in the long term. I'm not saying everybody gives up meat or anything like that, but gym culture in particular is really tied in with big agriculture. And that is super insidious because, oh my God, the more meat you try to sell, the more high protein, everything right now is high protein. Everything is high protein. And I just want to say, you guys, we cannot eat this much protein. We cannot. People don't understand how much protein we actually need. And just for the quickest 2-second reminder, it's the length and the width of your palm without your fingers. That's all you need in a day. That's all you need in a day. Most people get that in twice of that in one meal. And I'll tell you this, and Google it if you don't believe me. If you eat too much animal protein, you will gain fat. Okay, I'm just going to say that. Animal protein, too much, saturated fat of any kind will make you gain weight. So I think back to Gen Z, they're so invested in trying to save this planet. They're so invested in being real and being themselves and accepting themselves just the way that they are and accepting all people the way that they are. Let's actually start this revolution together and reject all of this industry that is just designed to take away dollars.
Yeah, man.
Are you with me,
I was
Gary?
laughing with that just because I can't tell you how often I hear this ridiculous stuff about protein. I'm like, why would you worry if you're getting enough protein? That's like America's has an abundance of protein, just like we have an abundance of
Too
calories.
much.
Too much. It's not like how can you think you're not getting enough protein? You're literally getting it like in the morning. Yeah,
Yeah.
as much as you need. It's and the gym
Yes.
culture gym culture is very agricultural culture. It's like, how much meat can I eat in a day for that? How much I just need to keep consuming this like crazy. And I think gym culture actually idea towards meat is very unethical. I'll just say it. As someone, I'm plant based, but mine is not for health reasons. Mine is for the insidious, ridiculous cruelty that we have towards animals. I have a very big heart
Yes.
towards that.
Yes.
I try to kill the hypocrisy inside me, which is if I believe in animal welfare and animals being treated properly, why would I be doing this, ingesting this? That's my
Yes.
thing, right? And
Me
it's
too.
environmentally very, I think, neutral. You want to, I don't know, just logical to me. There ain't going to be no other planets out there for us no time soon, just so you know. And no one's getting there anytime soon. This is it. This is it.
Yes.
This is it for people in
Yes.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, by the way, coming up.
Yes.
Nobody's going
Yes.
anytime soon,
Nope.
anywhere else. But I think gym culture actually is the antithesis of environmental decency in many
Yes.
ways. It doesn't support animal welfare at all. Again, not saying you should
Yes.
eat meat, but the complete total, how should I say this? Complete total amnesia or cognitive dissonance about what's happening to the protein you're consuming. For that bothers me about it. So
Absolutely.
I think that's like really insidious that as if we're in the fitness business and health and wellness, shouldn't we actually care about our environment?
Yes.
Go together.
Yes.
Don't you think so?
Yes.
But gym culture it does not
Yes.
promote that. It does not promote environmentalism at all. In fact, it promotes factory farming most of the time. When was the last time you saw a gym professional who was like, "Oh, I'm only eating grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or I'm only consuming chickens that are not, that are roaming free." There's none of that discussion. Zero of that discussion. It's just give me this fucking meat. It's just that's all it is.
Yes.
All it is. I don't care where it
Yes.
comes from, how it was slaughtered. The animals are scared. They're sentient beings. It's like,
Yes.
and let's be honest here too. Everybody's in fitness is not a hunter either, by the way. You're not hunting animals. That's a few people. Okay. That's not you. You're in a gym. You're getting Uber Eats all the time, all that stuff. You're not doing it. Okay.
Mhm.
So it
Mhm.
just gets me all worked up, this part.
Me too. I absolutely think, especially like Anti-carb and high protein diet culture makes me insane because I look at it from a dietitian standpoint and I'm like, guys, how on earth did we ever get to carbs are bad? How did we
I
get
know.
there? Because carbs are what fuel our body, how we make ATP. We
Yes.
absolutely need it. So we have all of these people on these ultra low carb ketogenic diets, which just drives me crazy because that's
Yeah.
horrible for the body. It's metabolically acidic. It's terrible. The brain doesn't like it. I'm so sorry. It does not. Brain runs on glucose, does not like ketones. And just a little FYI out there for all of the keto diet people, it was designed, this diet was designed for people with epilepsy. And the reason why it helps people with epilepsy is because it reduces electrical activity in the brain. So do you really want that? Do you really not like thinking clearly? Because that's what happens when you take so much carbohydrate out of your diet. You get foggy brained, you get anxious, you get depressed. It makes you weak. It makes you tired. It makes you extremely unhappy. So we have then protein coming as the rescue. But what you're actually seeing, if you consume more than that palm of yours, you're seeing so much saturated fat come into your system that the body cannot help and process it fully. So it starts to strain your kidneys, it starts to strain your liver, and then it becomes stored as fat. But that fat is also going through your bloodstream. It's clogging up your arteries, and it's also making you more insulin resistant because all of that fat is gumming up your insulin receptors. So this eat protein mentality is actually really great marketing for an industry that is destroying this planet and hurting animals, really making them suffer. And that when you really open your eyes to that, hopefully you can't unsee that. If you actually saw a video of these factory farms, and you're right, you have no idea when you go to a restaurant, they may say it's organic, but
No
it's
way.
probably not. I'm sorry, it's
No
probably
way.
not
Was brought in on a
because
Cisco truck. Guaranteed, man.
yes. And if they need to make money just like everyone else needs to make money. So they're going to get the cheapest meat possible. And the cheapest meat possible is subsidized by our government and lobbied heavily to be promoted by our government. And so that's why you see crazy things like even from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which makes my head spin, or big ag in places like the American Heart Association, which makes me crazy, that in the Susan G. Komen Foundation. We need to wake up to that and see where all the dollars are actually going.
Yeah.
And if you think that consuming tons of meat is going to make you rich, you're fooling yourself. So I encourage everyone to get as educated as they can, to really look at the scientific research, especially when it comes to plant-based eating. And when they look at also the blue zones, because the majority of them, especially Loma Linda here in California, are vegan or vegetarian,
Yeah.
you realize that you can actually have the best health and be promoting something that's good for the planet and good for animals. And that needs to be disseminated into gym culture, especially.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I think one time I was talking to someone, it wasn't that long ago, and we are talking about chicken. It's because I become plant-based and they were like, "You're not gonna eat chicken?" And I said, "No." I said, "On that chicken you're eating, they juice it up with so many hormones and steroids. Do you know that the chicken's breasts get so big that sometimes their legs break and they
Yes,
can't even walk?" And seriously,
yes,
like, that's what's on your plate. It says nothing to do with health for me. I understand that nice side health benefits because that part people get so worked up. Oh, we don't know if it's this or that, but come to me about the animal welfare part. That you can't deny. You can't deny that part. that
Yep.
these animals are being mistreated. They're literally being tortured. They're being tortured.
Yes.
You're eating tortured animal products. I'm not saying you shouldn't eat meat. I'm just saying ease up on it a little bit. And two, and maybe actually look into how these animals are being treated. And if
Hmm.
gym culture is always promoting eat, especially bodybuilding culture, which is extremely toxic to me, which is
Yes.
like eat chicken and rice all the time. That chicken is probably been pumped up with so many steroids in it and all
And
this junk
sodium.
and sodium. Is like, seriously, how many bodybuilders you know that are alive in their 50s, 60s, by the way, or haven't had triple
Exactly.
bypass heart surgery? It's like this disgusting, destructive process is hurting a lot of people. Now, listen,
Yes.
they could say it's my right to do what I want with my body. It is. It's totally your
Totally.
right. You go for it if you want to do it, but don't pull a lot of other people into it. That
Yes.
and they don't know the reality of it. My thing is, if you're doing that stuff, go for it, do it, but be
Totally.
honest. Be like, this is probably not going to keep me alive that long. I'm doing this for because I just feel like I want to do it, but I shouldn't be promoting this to other people. At least give a disclaimer about it.
Yeah. I
Give a
think a lot of people don't know, actually. I
yeah,
think a lot of people had so much misinformation coming at them, so much botched science, so much
yeah,
science that's influenced by industry, and you have to be really discerning. But what I recommend people, if they're at all, I don't believe you, which I'm hoping that they're not, go watch this documentary on Netflix, You Are What You Eat. And that is the Stanford twin study. They've
yep.
done a documentary on that where they took one of the set of twins, put them on a healthy omnivore diet, and the other one on a whole food plant based diet. And they monitored their health just for 6 weeks, but they also intersperse information about big agriculture all through the documentary. And I don't know how you can watch that and just say, I don't believe you, because you're seeing the inside of these horrible factory farms. You're
Yep.
seeing what they do to these poor chickens, what they're doing to these cows, what they're doing to the little pigs.
Pigs.
It's
Woof. Oof.
horrible. And here you have, at the very least, chickens too. They're all sentient beings. But you
Of
look at
course.
pigs in particular, they're so
Just like dogs, actually.
intelligent.
Yeah.
They are. And cows are so sentient. All they want to do is be scratched and cuddled. Literally, seriously, if you just hang out with a cow, they're going to come cuddle you. So you got to be thinking, am I being responsible? Am I being a good citizen? Am I being someone that is promoting animal welfare, or am I doing harm? And I just can't. I can't do it anymore. Like
Yeah.
I can't look at that and just be like, that's okay. I'm going to go eat that because it's not good for me. It's not good for the planet. It's not good for animals. So there's so many ways that gym culture could wake up and become actually a force for good. And that's what I'm really hoping. But it's a pretty tough
Daunting.
fight.
It's very
Yeah.
daunting. Yeah, because of the nature of these big institutions and the monetary influence for it. But there's individual gyms and people could make a big, I would say, even just to give you an example, the power of one person of doing this. Ever since I went plant based, I didn't promote this to other people. I just do my thing. This is how I
Yeah.
feel about it. Also, watch Seaspiracy. You'll never want to. What's happening in the sea is even worse than what's happening on the land. It's incredible.
Yes.
But so many of my clients have actually started to think about eating less meat, or some of them have even gone plant based ever since I have for that. I didn't promote it to them. They just, I would visit them or something. They'd ask, they said, oh, I'm not eating meat anymore, all that. And they got curious because they trust me, right? That
Yeah.
trust is so powerful. But what if it was
Totally.
the opposite? What if I said, I don't care about animals, I just eat as much meat? Whatever your words are incredibly influential. You are an influence.
Totally.
Everyone's an influencer on,
Totally.
and the greatest influencing is the stuff you do to people close to you. That's the
Yes.
biggest influence.
Yes. Absolutely. I am so on board with you, Darian. And I'm so happy to be on your podcast talking to you about this stuff today.
Kind of funny, right? I didn't know. See, I didn't know anything about that. You felt this way about that. And I don't really push this. I don't push to other people. I believe you should, you do what you want to do. But I just think
Agree.
if you have the right information and you, especially with animals, it's just so, I was tired of being a hypocrite. And
Yes.
I got to the point, I told my wife, I said, even if I do this and I don't feel as good, it's worth it for me so that I'm no longer being a part of this insidious institution of factory farming and
Yeah.
wildlife farming, even if it makes me feel a little bit less better physically.
Yes.
I need to have some integrity about this.
Yes.
Because if it's about health, then I may easily flip. But if it was about something really important to our planet, I knew I wouldn't go back on it.
Oh, yeah. I could tell you for me personally, I've never felt more energy,
Yeah, I feel great.
never eaten so much in my life. You can eat
I know I'm eating a
so
lot.
much food.
I'm eating
Yeah.
so
Like,
much, man.
I don't even think about it and I eat whatever I want,
Yeah,
staying, of course, within my ethical
sure.
boundaries. And I'm as healthy. I think I'm healthier than I was when I was in my 20s.
Same,
So
same.
you have to win in all areas. But I agree with you. Everybody's got to find their own path. And if you do the research, and I invite you to also go look at Michael Grieger's work at
Mhm.
nutritionfacts.org and his books, especially How Not to Die,
Yep,
that will also, I think, inspire you because you can't really deny the scientific rigor that he puts forward.
totally agree. I'm a big
Yes.
follower of the work that he does. And
Hmm.
I just think we all, and in summarizing this too, I have a lot of hope for Gen Z. I wanted to get to that. I don't want to forget that. These
Yes.
folks, these group of humans are living the ideals that I think we've always strived for. Are they
Agreed.
perfect? Definitely not. They got their issues too, just like
Is
every
anyone?
generation. But their heart is in the right place for the larger issues societally,
I agree. I agree.
civically, justice wise, environmentally. And I feel like they just came online and they were like, wait a minute, this planet is all we got. This is
Yes. And
literally
I
it.
love it.
That's my heart. This is it. And I know that people think we're spending all this time going into space and do all this other stuff. Just the logistics of that. You're talking crazy amount of time in human history for that's even other
Yes.
planetary stuff. And honestly, I don't have a lot
Yes.
of hope that we would do great there either. Honestly, it's like, it's like
I know.
I think
I
we'd maybe
know.
like I think we'd maybe try in the beginning to be more sustainable culture, but then as long as the corporations start getting involved and start that engine starts growing, it'll be like in the movie Ad Astra, where they go to the moon, that movie Brad Pitt's in, and there's a Roy Rogers on the moon and a McDonald's and all this stuff.
Or
It
you look
just
at Wally E. That's another one,
yeah, it'll
like,
just turn
is
into
a
that.
scary prediction.
Yeah,
I
yes.
think your voice is absolutely, completely mandatory
Thank
for
you.
gym culture to hear because it's refreshing. It is planet, health, and animal forward, and it's just good for everyone. So I'm so grateful to be sitting here
Same
with
here.
you. I wish I didn't have to go.
I know, same here. I'm so sorry. I know we went
Yeah.
for more than I thought, but it was just so good. I just had to keep going. So
I
thank you
know.
so much,
I
Supatra,
know.
and,
We're gonna have more when you're on mine.
most definitely. All right, thank you so much for your time, and we'll have in the show notes all your links and everything like that so people connect with you. Thank you so much.